Welcome to the What's Your Deal podcast, where we discuss business acquisitions, investments, management, and exit strategies. I'm your host, Matt Euler. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of What's Your Deal. I am joined with a very special guest today who's going to talk with us about a topic that's been mesmerizing to me for quite some time. So we're going to dive deep. Let me give you the introduction and we'll get started. Lindsay Quinn is the founder of HeartWise Collective and the creator of AI Practice Advantage, a coaching program that teaches business owners how to build custom AI systems for their companies. After spending over a decade building her consulting business through relationships and hands-on implementation, she pivoted hard into AI, using it to scale to superhuman levels. She doesn't just teach AI, she runs her business on it. Lindsay, welcome to What's Your Deal?
Thank you, Matt. So pleased to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, partially because this whole topic of AI, I know there are some people that are just diving deep and trying to catch up and learn what they can. And then I deal with a lot of business owners who are just afraid of it and not even sure where to start. Yeah. And so you've been through that process with your business. And so maybe you can just kind of walk us through the transition from a consulting firm, which a lot of people would think is just personal and AI might not have much impact, to what you're doing today.
Yeah. So, my journey into AI has been an unexpected journey. About 14 months ago, I decided to dive deep into AI. And really my intention at that time was to learn AI and automations to scale my business with a lean team. So my goal was, we were growing, and I thought, how can I be as efficient as possible? That's always my mindset, is efficiency. That's what I did in consulting. It was systems and efficiency. And as I started learning AI and became efficient in my business and plugged these AI systems into my own business, I realized that this is applicable to not only me, but also my clients. So because I have a background in consulting and systems and efficiency, for me, this is just the next evolution of systems and efficiency. So yes, I unexpectedly pivoted my business as I started talking about AI. People started becoming very intrigued with AI. And so I started helping them plug in AI systems into their own business. And now I've shifted that model even into a group coaching program. So with AI, I think they say that there's essentially, on average, 46 new AI tools and apps being released daily, which is incredible. And also, I think behind that is it's never been easier to create apps and tools because of AI. So the real takeaway with AI is, do not buy all of the tools and apps and the shiny objects, right? Rather, the skill is you need to learn how AI works, how to use AI so that you can build your own tools, you can build your own apps, you can create the efficiency in your business, because the only thing that you're limited by with AI is your creativity and your ability to know what you need. If you can communicate, you know what you need, AI can 10x you and your business and your efficiency and systems.
Well, it's amazing. And when I think through, and maybe we'll go back and talk about the framework and context. So you had a consulting firm, or still have a consulting firm that teaches orthodontists or helps orthodontists refine their business. Is that right?
Right.
And so can you kind of give us the backstory of that? So what was your business like before? And then how did you start to use AI to implement some of the things you wanted?
Sure. So yeah, my background is I've been in orthodontics for 20 years this year, and first as a team member for 10 years and then consulting for 10 years. And as an orthodontic consultant, I've always been focused on operations, practice growth, systems for efficiency, leadership, right, through conscious leadership and team building. And so again, the core has been efficiency and systems, helping people create structure so that they can grow with ease without burning out. And again, I think the pivot or the evolution, it's not even really so much a pivot, it's just an evolution of systems, has now become AI systems. It's taking what they already have and then saying, how can we plug AI into this to make this greater? So some specific examples of what that looks like. one of the things that we're building out is a brand champion for practices. And this is something applicable to all businesses where we can build out a system. I use Claude. That's my preferred large language model. It has the most exceptional abilities and only continues to grow. So that's Anthropic. If you watch the Super Bowl, you saw lots of commercials about Claude and Anthropic, competitor to ChatGPT. But anyways, inside of Claude, we can actually build out a system that trains Claude in an area in Claude, a project, right, that knows your brand voice, that knows your ideal client, that knows your ideal client's limiting beliefs, that knows how you speak, that knows what your brand looks like. And so we build out a brand skill so that every document and what's called an artifact, basically the output from Claude, whether it's a PDF, Excel file, Word document, HTML file, it's all branded with your logos, your fonts, your colors. So that's an immediate win. But because it knows your brand voice, how you talk, who you're talking to, and their limiting beliefs, you can then also create all of your content, copy, website, newsletters, blogs that are optimized for SEO and GEO inside of this project. So that takes you as a business owner, you're able to take a step back and have a VA or do it yourself, right? But you can then create content that sounds exactly like you that you still need to read, right? With AI, we have to keep a human in the loop always or we look foolish. But that allows you to create 10 times more content than you've ever created because it sounds like you and it knows who you're talking to. So it's powerful content that sounds like you. It moves us out of that AI cringe, right? So when I say AI cringe, I can easily tell whether something was written in ChatGPT or Claude without a brand champion, right? Because it all sounds the same. It has all of those transitional questions. What I see all the time, right? We see M dashes. M dashes are a dead giveaway for AI created content. We also see things like "and honestly?" ? Like those 2-word transitional sentences with a question mark. That's AI written. People are really starting to notice those things, and it becomes cringy and way less authentic.
It's funny you say that because I've wondered about that as I've been using AI more and more in the businesses that I have an ownership interest in. There are those telltales that show that it is AI. Now, I'm the kind of person that even before I send an email, I'll read it 2 or 3 times. So it doesn't usually from my office go out that way.
Yep.
But why is that? I mean, with such a smart program, why are some of those telltale things that are not refined yet? And then I want to go back to, so let's take an orthodontist in your situation.
Yeah.
How are they implementing this kind of thing? So, but maybe we can start with this question.
Yeah. Why is that happening? I think it's just, so these large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and Grok and Perplexity, all of these are called large language models. And although they are highly intelligent, they're also like, they think they're just limited by context, right? So it's like, it's very structured. It follows rules. It does what it's supposed to do. And so if it's been trained to speak a certain way because this is how we speak in the American language, then it's following that structure. But what I'm saying is we can give it a different structure. We can give it different instructions on how we want it to operate. So that's what we do, right? We have a formula that we go through where we have people fill out a full questionnaire about their business, about how they speak, about who their ideal client is, about, right? We create their limiting beliefs. And this is all done through AI, right? Through the help of AI. It's an efficient process, but then we take these questionnaires and documents and have specific prompts that we then run them through to generate a brand voice guide, to generate the ideal client guide, to generate their limiting belief guide. And then from that, we create instructions for AI that says, here's how we talk, here's what we're talking, here's who we're talking to, and here's examples of my existing copy, my best performing social media captions, anything you've ever put out that was in your own voice. So it then has a new guide to follow.
Okay, so let's break that down because I know for me, I just started to go into a speed wobble, which is like, I don't know how to do all of that, right? And so with a lot of the businesses I work with, and I'm going to use orthodontics because that's what one of your specialties, and now your other business is helping people implement everything you just described. But let's take an orthodontist, right? Their skill and need is to be with their clients, right? Their patients.
Their patients.
And so when they're with their patients, that needs to be their focus. So if you're working with an orthodontic office trying to help implement this, and or if somebody in our audience is like, I own a framing company, I own a business brokerage firm, I own a whatever it is where there's a personal service around it.
Yeah.
Are you working with key staff? Do people just bring you in to help implement this? I mean, it doesn't happen on its own.
Right. No, it doesn't. And there is so much to learn. So, that speed wobble is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like your whole universe is like expanding, right? And what does this mean and what's possible? And that's been my experience when I first started learning AI too. It was almost daily. And now it's even still every week. I have these moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is what's possible now. And it's mind-blowing. So, coming back to who do I work with and how does this work? So we offer both one-on-one, done-for-you solutions. So if a practice wants us to just build out these systems for them, we do and we can and we will and we have. And I also offer a group coaching program because it is one thing to have these systems built for you. It is next level to have somebody walk you through, here's how we actually build them. Because once you know how the framework works, it's like building a house. If you know how to build one house, if you build houses, you can style that in any which way, right? You can build different designs, and that's how AI is too, right? If we know how to build the system and I do it a few times, now I know the framework, I can build anything I want. Because it is we've got 8 AI systems that we build for practices or we show them how to build themselves. But you could be creating new systems every week. Every business is going to have their own specific needs. I want people to know how to build those things. We offer done for you, we do done with you, and we do the group coaching program.
Okay. And so for a lot of businesses, and we're in I'll speak specifically to the brokerage firm in my coaching business, we're working on implementing it all the time. And it's not a one and done. Right? It's not like, okay, well, that's done. We never have to look at it again.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a continual evolution, but it's understanding, for me at least, it's understanding like, wow, I didn't really realize that it could do that. So now it's a matter of how to teach AI and have AI programmed to help me fulfill a task. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm still talking with people. I'm still the one negotiating transactions on business deals and those kinds of things. But it's everything else, increasing the brand and some of the monotonous tasks of analyzing things that it can assist with. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's the thing about AI, right, is we should be using AI to do all of the tasks that are done on a computer. So that we can increase our value with human-to-human connection, right? I want to be able to have as much face time with humans and clients and my people and my family as possible. Therefore, if I take the time to build out the AI systems and what's possible, I don't have to be the one on a computer. So, that's where AI is and will continue to go, is anything that can be done on a computer, we can train AI agents and AI systems to do. So if you think about it in that terms, like, financial reporting, financial analysis, rather. I do financial audits, and I think that's applicable for a lot of different businesses, right? We look at financials. There's a step-by-step process where we go in, we gather data, we collect information, and then I used to sit and analyze all of that data on my own, and this used to be a 12-hour project, right? Now, I can have a team member say, okay, I need you to get all of this information. I have set up the structure. Setting up structure is one of the best things you can do going into AI. If you've got a structure, you've got standard operating protocols for your business, you can essentially take those SOPs and take it into AI and say, here is my SOP for how I complete this. Here is my template for this report. Here is the data. Here's how we read the data. Here's how we do the calculations. You build that once inside of Claude as a Claude skill with Claude Cowork. And I know a lot of these words are probably like, I don't even know what that means. But if you go on YouTube, you can look up what this means. I'm happy to dive in deeper. But if you go into Claude, create a skill for how to do something, and you use Cowork, which can read files on your desktop, you will never have to do that again.
Okay, so let's break that down, because I can imagine a lot of the business owners I work with, small business owners, it's just, again, how to do that. So we'll use my business as an example. So a lot of my day is spent analyzing financial statements, whether it's a coaching client that I'm analyzing their financials to see what's happening. I use financial statements like dials on a dashboard, right? They help us to know what's going on. Are we running out of gas? Or we have a full tank? That kind of thing. So I'm interpreting that the analysis still needs to be done by me at some point, but AI can help to move it ahead much quicker with less labor and time and energy, because the systems are there. It's just a matter of programming it to know what I want it to look at. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. And, in terms of the analysis that you're doing, if you can get the way that you analyze the data out of your brain and into Claude, Claude can do the analysis. You wouldn't even have to do that part. If you gave it metrics, and maybe that looks different for each business. So depending on the types of businesses, maybe you create a few different skills inside of Cowork and Cowork. And when I say skills, you can think of skills as an SOP, a standard operating protocol for Claude.
Okay.
So if you create a skill, and if you can train a person to do this, you can train Claude Cowork and skill to do this.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's similar to training a person. If I were to hire a new person in my office, I'd need to teach them, listen, here's how the tax return reads. Here's what we're looking for. Here's why. Here's what's different.
Exactly. And if you do that in detail inside of Claude, and I highly recommend not typing in Claude, here's what I do, here's how I do this, but I use a tool called WhisperFlow. WhisperFlow is just a voice-to-text tool.
Okay.
So I would speak out loud like I'm training a team member. Here's my process. Here's what I do. Here's what this means, right? And that's going to take some effort the first time you do it. But you're never going to have to train another human to do that, right? So the long-term advantage of this is wild.
Well, and Claude doesn't get sick or need vacation time, right? So the effort that goes in up front to teach it how to help is really similar to if we were teaching that to an individual or a human being.
Exactly. And it's only getting better. So, there's even a feature with Claude that is a browser extension. So this is where we start moving into what's called agentic workflows with AI versus generative. So most people, probably 99% of the population, they're using ChatGPT. They've not heard of Claude, and they're just using the generative features, like help me draft an email response or help me write content for a blog. That is generative. Where we start moving into agentic AI is where we have these AI agents that can actually do things like turn on a browser extension and download files or read files or analyze files, not necessarily files, but read copy on a website, right? Or make edits. So if you're in a Google Doc and you turn on the browser extension and you ask Claude to make edits, it will, and it can. It'll start editing that document, right? So it can actually do things. That's the agentic side of AI. It's not just generating, but it's actually doing. It can move as if it were sitting in front of your computer, going through different browser tabs and downloading files or copying things. And then we could have that. Are you wobbling again?
Just
I know, just following through. Yeah, like the possibilities, right?
Right.
So then we can also have, like if we were having the browser extension download files for us, I could have it download to a file on my desktop, which Cowork connects to, and then Cowork can read and analyze files and create documents for us on our desktop. And there's a specific way, right? For anybody listening, there's a specific way that we want to set up Cowork. Because Cowork can edit files, read files, and delete files, we always want to keep a contained area for Cowork. So for me personally, what I do is I have a Claude Cowork file on my desktop. And I've only given it permission to work inside of that file. So whatever I want it to work on, I just create subfolders for and put it in there.
Okay.
So if people are getting excited about co-work, don't just like go crazy and give it access to everything, because you might end up deleting some files that you don't want deleted.
Yeah, we don't want the robot taking over the world, right? Yeah,
No. Yeah, we still want to have some autonomy.
Yeah. So as we're talking through this, what occurs to me is that even though it's not really new, it is new. Mm-hmm. And so there's the what can it actually do awareness, which I continue to have every day. Mm-hmm. Then there's the how to, and then there's the ongoing relationship. Is that fair? It's
yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really simple way to think about it. So I think the first is the awareness, the mind expansion of what is actually possible with AI. And then it's the how do I actually do this? Mm-hmm. And then AI every week is evolving, changing, growing. So for me, right, I continue to stay in an AI mastermind that meets every single week so that I am getting the most up-to-date information. And then I filter that. Is this applicable for my business or my clients? And I'm going to take that. If not, I'm just kind of storing it away as what's possible for businesses outside of my business. Because there is AI overwhelm is very real.
Yes,
right?
I understand.
Even for me, who has been in this for 14 months, meeting every single week and learning AI for every single week, I get overwhelmed. Uh-huh. The people who are teaching my AI mastermind, they are overwhelmed, right? Because they've got people above them. And so there's this real need with AI to be able to say, this is applicable for me, this is not applicable. So one thing that I always tell people is don't be in search of a problem because you have a solution.
Okay.
That's
great.
Yeah, rather start with, I have something that I'm putting off because it's going to take a lot of time and it's a lot of manual effort. That should be your trigger to start thinking about how can I use AI to make this easy for me and efficient.
So if we go back to this concept, and I think metaphors are powerful sometimes because they simplify things, right? Yeah. So if I'm in a situation where I'm thinking, you know what, I probably could hire another person here, and here's what I would have them do. That, again, with AI, that's probably a start for, okay, I wonder how AI could help me do this. Yeah. And for me, I'm always looking at, okay, where am I working in my businesses and where am I working on them? And I tend to gravitate towards working in them because it's been the path of least resistance. This is really working on the business to identify areas, like you just said, that are either a bottleneck or could be assisted. Yep. And then coming up with the solution to be able to take it to the next step. Yeah.
So, that what I'm thinking about too is another possibility for AI. One of the systems that we create for orthodontic practices, but is also applicable to any business who is selling, which is a business.
Right.
We build out what we call a conversion coach. And so the conversion coach is we can take transcripts from an exam, a new patient exam, or as a business, you can take a transcript from a recorded call. So if you're doing your sales calls, either if you're doing a sales call or you're meeting in person, right, using a device to capture that conversation and then take it into a conversion coach that's been trained, again, in who are we talking to, what's my brand voice, and run it through there and ask it to score you or your team members on how well they performed based on the metrics and criteria we gave it. We can see how we're scoring and also give us ideas on how we could have done this better, what we could have said differently, right? So I even load my conversion coach with different thought leaders on sales, communication, relationship, just taking whole books that I've purchased, the transcript from the whole book and putting it in there. So it has a framework and is now thinking like some of these top leaders in sales, right? So
so again, back to training the employee. Metaphorically. So if we were to break this down again to people that are in the audience, if there's somebody who's in the contracting business, they can load a blueprint, right, for an estimate into AI and have it provide a materials list or an estimate of time required to complete the work, or right? I mean, things like that.
Yeah. Yes, you can. And there's different tools that I would use, right? So if we're asking it to generate a cost estimate, if we've not given it the context to know what things cost in the first place, then like it could make things up. We don't want it to make things up because then we don't look good. But there are other AI tools, LLMs, like Perplexity, that actually gives you that does research that is cited and shows you the sources. So it's pulling from real information. So we just want to be aware of the tools, how they best work, and what we use for how we use each one, rather.
Yeah, so it's really a tool to help the individual. I was talking with a gentleman the other day who's in the medical industry, and he was saying that AI is now dramatically improving the quality of medical care because the notes from the exam are being recorded and then processed against the patient's file. And helping the doctor to be aware of this medication conflicting with this medication. So all of that database and we'll use a doctor as an example. If a doctor's been in the ER for 12 hours, I mean, they is quick on which medication and which one conflict. A lot of that's in the back end. Now, we still need the doctor.
Of course, yeah.
But the assistance of that huge database of knowledge to cross-check is just an amazing tool.
It is.
And in that case, it's life and death, right?
Right. So. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's massive. And that just kind of comes back to, right, like the more information that we give it, the more powerful it becomes. So imagine a doctor and nurses using this in a hospital setting where full conversations are now being captured and then put into whatever specified AI tool they're using to summarize and flag those key things. It is. I mean, the efficiency is massive. I think AI and this era that we're in right now is like as big as electricity, right? Like that creation, like that. It's a little scary to think about, but I do think that is the transformation that we're undergoing right now. And I don't think there's full awareness around how big this actually is. And I have no idea. And even the AI leaders, right? They have no idea what this is actually going to look like on the other side. A lot of it is up to humanity on how humanity chooses to use AI, like for the good or not, right?
Or not. Yeah. So you actually use this in your consulting business where you decided to, and I'm going to ask you to elaborate, but kind of go more public. And so you put together some webinar programs and things like that, and literally used AI to help design the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it shortened the curve based on what I'm going to ask you to share, but based on what I'm aware of, it shortened that business cycle from what would have typically been 3, 5, 7 years to very short period of time. So can you share that story to help give some context to how this can be used?
Yeah. So, like we talked about earlier, right? I've decided to pivot towards AI. So I'm never not talking about AI, even if it's an orthodontic system now. And I, about 6 months ago, decided I wanted to move my one-on-one systems consulting to a group coaching program. And I needed to create awareness around this because I haven't been doing AI for the last 10 years, right? And so this is a new thing. So I used AI to help build the funnel and the marketing engine, right? So we created the funnel, we created all the sales emails. We used it to create the landing page we did a webinar first, right? And then that moved into the group coaching program, but we used it to create the landing page. I've been using it to create all of my landing pages for the content each week. So I wish I could show you guys what that looks like. I'll show you afterwards. But it's what would have taken me probably a 10-person team to create this full program over probably 4 to 6 months. We were able to create from essentially like the day that we said, go, we're doing this, to going live on the program. That was about 6 weeks. And then a 6-week program that I'm creating content for week by week because AI is evolving and I want to make sure they're getting the most up-to-date information. So yeah, everything from the marketing funnel to the landing pages to the video content to the actual content of the course has all been AI generated. Me partnering with AI, right? So it's me. It's still me. I'm leading this. It's my knowledge, my resources, my what I do, but I am using AI as my thinking, creating, and doing partner through this whole process.
Yeah, so I think that's important. It won't just do it for you or without you, right? It'll assist, but you still have to interpret and evaluate and act.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, that's where we look foolish, right? If we're not guiding it, if we're not directing it, if we're not reviewing all of the outputs, refining, tweaking, then we look foolish, and it's just garbage, right? It's that inauthentic AI cringe that nobody wants to see, and it doesn't have that human frequency that's involved with it, right? So I don't think that you're going to have a great product if you're not heavily involved. But again, my AI, all of my AI pieces, it works weekends, it works nights, right? So it's not just, I'm not waiting for a VA or an assistant to do this work for me. It's when I've got free time, hey, let's do this, or I need you to be working on this, and it just does it, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so for somebody who's thinking about, there's an element of this that requires change, right? We get used to doing what we're doing. And in our small businesses and even larger businesses, but I'm going to stick with small right at the moment because usually the owner becomes integral.
Right.
So this does require change and a different way of thinking, and it does require some effort to create the tool and the assistance that you need. But like anything, I mean, I'm going to try to come up with a real grassroots example. Let's say we've got a small business and they want to implement a new marketing campaign, right? That's something new. It's change, it's different, and it requires effort.
Yeah.
And AI is just one of those tools that helps to expedite that process. And so, again, for a small business owner that's listening, that's thinking this is just way too much work, it is a push, just like anything up front. But then it goes on and on from there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a good analogy, right, is the shift from going from typewriters to computers.
Great example.
I mean, could you imagine if we stayed in a world where people were, I don't really want to use computers because that is a lot to learn, so I'm just going to continue to type, right? Like that's where this is at, right? We're moving away from typewriters and we're going to computers. And I really think that once people even see one AI magic show, they see what's actually possible with AI in one area, they're going to, that just unleashes like, oh no, I have to learn this. I want to learn this because look at what's possible. It's actually very exciting. I think it's more exciting than it is one more thing to have to learn. And I don't see a lot of resistance around learning AI once people see what's possible. That's the key.
Well, and it can be fun.
It's
right?
so fun.
And it's funny, I'm kind of tipping my hat here with my advanced age, but I used to use a typewriter, right? And it was so cool when you could put the little white thing in there and hit the button and it would remove the mistake. Well, at that point, I was not afraid of a computer that actually had the ability to word process, but there is fear around AI and what it's going to mean to us and take away jobs. So can you talk about that aspect of what you see coming if you had to make it up?
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I think there is a bit of a fear for me too. I have a 3.5-year-old. And so I think about what is the world going to look like when he moves into his teenage years and into his working years? Like, what are the jobs that are going to be available? What is he going to do? And for me personally, I just trust. I trust that this is an amazing tool and that it's going to evolve. Like the world continues to evolve in so many different ways. And so I think, again, coming back to what I talked about earlier, I think we need to be thinking about AI as something that's going to allow us to have more one-on-one human connection, right? Like I think humans are going to be more valued than ever before. That time with humans can be that's what we can expand. So I think, like, again, can AI do all of the things that I don't enjoy doing, that take me a lot of time, that put me in front of my computer all day long, so that I can be more present with people? That's how I choose to think about what's going to happen with AI.
Okay. Yeah, so that's an interesting concept. I mean, this whole idea of quality of life, even if the efficiency creates a dynamic where there's less human need in one area, more than likely it will show up in another area, just like all of evolution.
Exactly.
But this idea, I've literally heard people communicate this idea that like nobody's going to have to do anything and the government's just going to have to give us money because all we will be is consumers. I'm having trouble getting there.
I know. And I mean, I can see, I have a vision. I can see that as a possibility where money actually has no value. And I think this is like probably going real deep, right? But
that's why we call it, what's your deal?
I have a vision of what that could look like. And I do see that as a possibility, a world in which money has no value and we live in an abundant life. And we've used AI to figure out how to generate energy, infinite energy using the sun because we can get into space. And like that's a possibility. That is the possibility I like to hold on to in my mind as why we're not afraid of AI, right? And again, how humanity is going to do this, I don't know, but I do see it as a possibility that AI is solving the biggest medical mysteries that we've never been able to solve before, curing cancer, right? Curing all of these things that humans have not been able to do. And yeah.
Well, and maybe I'm downplaying it here, but this, I mean, was the evolution of the vehicle absolutely life-altering and probably scary at the time, and so on, and you know, being able to travel by airplane, and I mean, those were just unbelievable evolutions at the time, and now we wouldn't think another thing of it.
Right.
So I would like to believe that AI will be something similar to that, where it just improves quality of life and gives us more access to tools and allows people to connect in a way where they might not otherwise.
Yeah.
And who knows, we'll continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but there's a new movie in theaters. I think it just came out this week about AI, and I think so much of it it's a documentary talking to a lot of the AI experts, like, you know, the head of Anthropic and ChatGPT. But it's very much this conversation, which way are we going to go with AI? Here are the possibilities of what could happen with AI, right? Like the high road and the low road of it. But I think, you know, I'm curious to watch that movie. I think it'll be interesting.
Yes, I will be interesting.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening and let's say they've stuck their toe in the water of AI a little bit or not even at all, how do they start? Because it can certainly, when you hear AI agent and all these things, it could just be totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
What are the first steps that somebody can use to start exposing themselves to it?
Yeah, you know, I think there is so much content available on YouTube. I would encourage people to, again, I'm a heavy Claude user. I'm not affiliated with Claude, but I talk about it all the time. Even if you go into Claude, right, and you say, I run this business, these are some of my biggest pain points, how can I use Claude to help me? And just have AI literally create you some ideas of how you could be using it in your business. And then go into YouTube and say, I want to start doing this with my business, right? And just like Google or go into YouTube and look at some videos. I also would highly recommend the program that I started with Callan Faulkner. It's called Automate to Accelerate. She's either got her full 12-week program going on twice a year or master classes and boot camps. And she's an incredible teacher. She teaches businesses of all kinds how to use AI. And that's how I started learning AI. And I thought it was an incredible course, and she's a great instructor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the pain point is probably the key. So if there's a business owner out there, anybody who's saying, you know what, this is an area that either A, I get hung up, or I don't want to do it anymore. That's maybe the opening to like, I wonder how AI could be of assistance. And again, for business owners, that's no different than, you know what, I'm buried in this area. I need some help. I'm going to hire somebody.
Exactly.
So same kind of dynamic.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, even using AI, right, to say I'm buried in these things and I think I need to hire, how can we create a job description and or how can AI help me with these things, right? So it can create the job description you need and give you ideas how you could use AI to support some of those things that you're describing.
Okay, and at a real fundamental level, one of the things that I've learned as I've been trying to work with AI is that the quality of the question determines the quality of the answer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so even when I've asked a question that I thought was clear and I got a response, I still have to interpret it. And I might say, okay, I want you to consider this piece as well. And it will come up with a different output based on the clarity I provide.
Yeah. So one framework that I'll give you and your audience here, when you start using ChatGPT or you are using, there's a very specific way that you want to prompt it. So rather than going in and just asking a question or telling it to create something, we use the RCRQ framework. So when we go into a new chat, wherever that is, we're always we want to give it a role first. So for example, you might say you are Lindsay Quinn, founder of HeartWise Collective, AI expert and orthodontic systems expert. So we've given it a role. And then we're going to give it context. This is where you're just going to do your brain dump. And again, using something like WhisperFlow that's going to capture voice to text to do this. So you're just going to do your brain dump. You're doing the full context to give ChatGPT or Claude your background of what's going on. Then you're going to make your request. Right? So I need to come up with a new marketing plan for X, Y, or Z. And then, this is critical, you're going to ask it to ask you clarifying questions. Please ask me clarifying questions. Or you might say, please ask me the 3 highest impact questions in order to get the greatest response. So by you prompting it to ask you questions, it's going to take everything you had, consider it, and then say, but I still need to know X, Y, and Z to give you the best output.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's a very good, the tip of the day,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah. Because it does vet all of that. And what I've done in the past, I think I've probably got there, but not as quick as just simply putting that all up front and then getting feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, those asking it to ask you clarifying questions is a game changer at the end. And I mean, again, here, when you give it a role, you can give it a role of anybody in the world. So if you're wanting to, create content like Gary Vee, you could assign it as Gary Vee, and it knows who Gary Vee is because it has access to all of that, right? So, yeah.
That's very powerful. Yeah. Well, I'd like to, how can people find you?
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to connect with you if they want assistance in this area?
The best way to reach me is through my website, heartwisecollective.com, or on Instagram at HeartWise Collective.
Okay, very good. And so I finish all of my podcasts with just, none of us got where we are on our own. And so can you share a story about somebody who's helped you get to where you are or gave you a hand up when you needed one?
Yeah. I mean, I love that question, right? I think I started out talking about how we're always just one person away from our next opportunity being fulfilled, right? And so it is definitely all about the people. And, one person. So I would say Karen Moad, she was the person who brought me on as a consultant 10 years ago. So she operates Hummingbird Associates, and at that time, I didn't feel like I had any business being a consultant. I thought I had major imposter syndrome, and she just saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And by having her and other people see things in me, called me forward to a higher level until I started believing in myself and what I was doing. So, I'm just uber grateful for her.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and honestly, that's a great example, and I can relate, and I would guess most people can, but just that period of time where you're like, I'm not sure I can pull that off, or I'm not sure that's really me. And so her seeing in you something that she saw and inspiring you to do it, look what's happened from it and the impact that's coming from that conversation. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you joining us today and cracking the top open on this topic, which is just so deep. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
But the conversation has inspired me to grab another gear to decide how I can use AI to help improve the quality of my life, where I'm not spending as much time working on projects that don't need me.
Yeah.
And I can show up where I am needed instead.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm so glad it's been inspiring for you. And I think there isn't a business in the world that wouldn't benefit from using AI in powerful ways beyond just creating emails and content, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Matt. It's been fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And again, there's just such a world here that needs to be investigated. And for us, as business owners, there's so much help that's out there to help us improve the quality of our life as we grow our businesses. And we will see you on the next episode. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some valuable insights into the world of buying and selling businesses. Want to be a guest on our show? If you have a deal that you'd like to discuss with us or a business story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email using the contact information below in the episode notes, and let's make this happen. Never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a review. It helps more people like you find the show.